Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's Monday night. It's 8 o'clock. You know what time it is. It's time to start your week off right here on Nerd Initiative with Play for Keeps the show. Welcome back as always. My name's Off the Cuff Tom. Now, we got something a little different going on tonight. We are talking about one of my favorite absolute franchises of all time. Now, if you don't know, everybody kind of knows me as a Power Rangers guy. If it wasn't actually for Voltron, none of this would have happened. Nothing would have gotten me into Power Rangers. Power Rangers wouldn't have got me into doing all this fantastic stuff online. So, as that said, folks, this one is a very near and dear to me, and I really hope you stay along and watch and pay attention because we've got a great lineup of all the information that I was able to get for you about Voltron. As far as toy news tonight, because I was Voltroning out so hard, I don't have much, but I do have pickups galore this week. Now, because I happen to level up later this month, we might have gone a little crazy on the pickups. So we started off, there's a little local convention, and we may have picked up some Jada toys out there for my buddy Mickey. That's right, I was able to luck out and get the Jada Toys Elect Man and Cut Man for the Mega Man line. And then while I was at the convention, Twin Tiers Comic-Con, I picked up a Perceptor from Transformers. So, I can see everything comes up. Yep, that one's just for you, Mickey. Absolutely. I lucked out and found that FYE, and I normally don't buy FYE figures, but it was too good not to, especially at the price. Then I lucked out and got Perceptor while I was at the convention. And then Mrs. The Cuff and I were happening to be having some dinner and talking about, oh man, I lucked out and got Perceptor, but it's kind of hard for me to get the rest of the primes, because of the Transformers. And, I did talk about, I did get Prime a little while ago, but we happened to walk into that store with the big spark on the front. And I'm like, you know what, we go back. And I find, and if you watched our, Transformers, Month of Transformers, we did talk about Sea Spray. Sea Spray is one of my personal favorite characters, and everybody knows why. It's those micro figures that was released in Wave 2. So I was able to pick up a Sea Spray on the classic backer card and everything. Even had the backstory by, everything on here with Bob Budiansky's, all that. But here's the oh wow moment. So I was talking about, oh man, I'm gonna not get all these primes. Onyx Prime, that's right. The Prime of the Beast Transformers right here. I can't believe I was able to luck out and pick this one up. If you guys happen to pick up anything this week, let us know in the comments. That's what we want to know. And this is a pretty neat figure because not only does it come with a standard robot mode, it also has a Centaur mode and then a Beast mode. So I guess you could call Centaur mode its vehicle mode or transmetal mode. I don't know. But then the weirdest one of all this is pure dumb luck, like the Allspark and the Matrix just shined upon me. Wave 1 figure, Megatronus. Like how this was flying off the shelves and I found it randomly in a Walmart in upstate New York, I can't believe it. So eventually these bad boys are going to get unboxed, and that means we have to redo all my shelves because that's what we do. But tonight we are talking about Voltron. 40 years of Voltron. Can you believe it? Like, I'm slightly older than Voltron, but we're talking Voltron itself. We are talking about Voltron, the legendary defender of the universe. Yes, I wanted to put it all on there, but it wasn't going to fit. If you take a look, we've got all the Voltrons mentioned here, shown, including that other particular one, and we will talk about it. But let's start at the beginning. That's right. Voltron debuted in 1984, but it was the best oops ever turned icon. So there was an executive from World Entertainment Productions, happened to be over in Japan, and he was taking a look at all these great franchises and decided, hey, wait, we can take the Japanese animation, dub it with our stuff, with our names, and then they already have the toys. We just got to repackage it, and boom, we're good. We're great. Well, he picked 3 different series, and out of those 3 series, we got Voltrons 1, 2, and 3. But here's where the biggest oops happened. This could have been Voltron. That's right. when he was explaining to his partner or whatever lackey, I want the one with the lions. Well, this is what it should have been, but we didn't get that. Thank God we got the combining robots. And then what we really got out of it was, again, the best oops ever, where we got Go Lion turned into Voltron itself. Now, if you take a look here, if you remember the original opening where it's from days of long ago, there came a legend, the legend of Voltron. I am no Peter Cullen. I am never going to be. But the idea was there was going to be 3 different rims, or, precincts, even you could say. There was going to be the near, the middle, and the far. And in the far parts of the galaxy, all the way back out there, down into the left, is where vehicle Voltron did not come from, because he was close to home. It was Lion Voltron. So Go Lion was adapted into Lion Voltron. And what's interesting, if you take a look here at these boxes, they say 1, 2, and 3. Why is it they didn't go 1, 2, and 3 based on how they were presented? I have no idea. Again, more big oops, but again, does it matter? Here we are 40 years later talking about Voltron. So starting off, we had the original Voltron series that ran for 72 episodes. And the biggest thing for me, and I still say to this day, why didn't the suits match? Why is the Keith and Sven's and Alora's, things didn't match their suits? I have no idea. I don't think we've ever gotten a real good reason for it. That's okay. Either way, this show ran for 72 whole episodes. It ran for 50 of original, and then it ran an extra 20. This followed the adventures of our space, adventurers, tasked by the Galaxy Garrison to go and bring back Lion Voltron to fight Prince Lothar and his King Zarkon, against the Drool army. Every single episode, it was the same thing. It was plot, device, here you go. Why do we have to form together? All right, let's do it. Eventually, Sven, the pilot of the Blue Lion, who wore black, eventually had to leave because he was injured too much, and then Princess Alora decided to take the role over. So out of Lion Voltron, or Voltron 3, this was the original big pack. I had this as a kid. This was die-cast. It's a lost art, let me tell you. I love this. It's iconic. Now, it was extremely simple to combine and change. The legs just tucked in. The hands were just the lion faces. This was awesome. They had each one of them had a little extra blade piece that they could put in their mouth. Not only that, but if you take a look at the yellow lion, it had a little blaster on the back. Everybody had just a little tiny quirk to it. And of course, Black Lion had the wings, which you never really saw used in the show. But when Voltron was combined, the wings did pop out. I always personally, when I was playing with, always had the wings because they just look so freaking cool. Yeah, I fell in love with this. All the the heads were able to pop off on green and red to launch out like, rocket punches. This was heavy. This was die-cast, the whole thing. And you can't go wrong with it. If you can find one of these sets nowadays, in box or out of box, good luck to your wallet. I will tell you that right now. Is this one of the biggest regrets I have in my childhood that happened to have gone the way of the trash can? Yes, it did. But yeah, if you take a look here, just for reference, you can collect them all. And like I said, there were 3 different Voltrons, and we're going to talk about every single one of them. And what was great is that they did have a smaller and a larger version of Vehicle Voltron and of Lion Voltron, not of Gladiator Voltron, who, we will talk about shortly. So I even had, out of the Lion Voltron, I had both the deluxe set and the little kid hand size set, which for me was perfect because I took that figure everywhere with me. It was Voltron. You gotta love Voltron. Now, following that, we're talking about what's going on. We mentioned Vehicle Voltron. So let's talk about it. Vehicle Voltron, also known as the Voltron 1, was a combined team of 15 different vehicles of the land, air, and sea teams. What I do appreciate this is if you can take a look over on the air team, number 4 on the way down is Chip. All right. Chip is actually Pidge's from Lion Voltron's brother. So there's a whole little story going on there. And what's so great is that eventually they carry that through all the different shows. That Pidge and Chip were always related, and I appreciated that. This one, same idea. You had a lot of the same voice cast come back for it. What's interesting is having the 3 different teams of 15 vehicles. Each 5 was the land, air, and sea team. They each could combine into their own particular, I wouldn't say robot, but vehicle machine fortress thing. I don't know, man. Some were fucking like the turbo terrain fighter. There was the Stratus Force thing, and then there was a submarine. Now, how the sea team worked in space, that's one of those Power Ranger things. Like, why is the dolphin flying? It just does, and you just have to roll with it. One thing they did smartly off of Vehicle Voltron is they still reused a lot of the audio, and not only that, they reused the opening theme too as well. So there was a little bit of connectivity. So, when you ran through all your episodes of Lion Voltron, it's like, oh, who's this? Well, it's got the same music. We might as well give it a try and still listen to it.
It wasn't that good.
So how did Matchbox and, World Entertainment Productions and Toei decide to fix this? Toei was commissioned to buy World Entertainment Productions for 48 minutes of garbage cash grab. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Fleet of Doom. Yeah. This was the crossover movie that nobody wanted. And as much as you want this, it's literally like 6 minutes at the end of just both Voltrons teaming up to take on whatever the big bad was. There was no toys. There was nothing really made out of this. Like, this would have been, if they had enough prep time, this would have been a perfect example of how you could have made a Fleet of Doom box set or, done something special. No, this was just garbage. I have tried to watch this multiple times, and you can find this whether legally or illegally here on the internet. And more power to you if you can watch it. Now, we mentioned that, we had Lion Voltron, which was Voltron 3, and Vehicle Voltron out of all 15 pieces, and then the 3 mini warrior thing, tank, whatever the hex. But there was Voltron 2. That's right. It got 0 episodes. Now, this was made out of another series from Japan called Albegus, Electro Defender Albegus. This was an interesting idea. Okay, well, all right. First and foremost, happy Life Day, since we are going to mention the Star Wars Christmas special. I will give you a heads up on that. And if you can watch the Star Wars Christmas special, then you can absolutely take the time, and I guess you can go watch Fleet of Doom. But yeah, tell Bumpy I said hi. So this is Voltron 2. This was based off of, like I said, Albegus. This was a neat idea. Now I'm going to go back to the other picture here and show you that, this was very interesting in the fact that if you look at the scale and the size, it's very, very different. Because it was still, Albegus was made of 3 smaller robots, but not nearly to the size as, say, the Lions. But you could mix and match all the pieces, and I've seen some folks do some really interesting ones. It didn't always have to go around with the big, 6-arm Spider-Man looking thing. But this was the Gladiator style, and no, we never got anything for it. Now, if you are lucky enough to go and be able to find one of these, I have seen sets of this go anywhere from $700 to $1,000 still in box. You got that nerd money? You have at it. Me? Nah. I have no real big attachment to it simply because, it is the one Voltron that I've never seen. So why do I need to go out and buy it? And then we had a little bit of a lull. Voltron still lived on in our hearts and everything. But around 1999, Voltron the Third Dimension came out. Again, done by World Entertainment Productions. This ran for 26 episodes. This was a real sequel series, which you didn't have that much in the late 90s. A lot of the returning cast came back, and the suits finally freaking matched the Lions. Also, one other thing to take in consideration, this was all done in 3D, and this was 1990s 3D. So that was hard to swallow. Like, if you take a look here on this banner, yeah, it looks pretty good. It looks like Voltron. There was just some choices as far as something just didn't hit for me. The one other cool thing is I don't have a good picture of this because it's very hard to find pictures because this is the pre-internet-ish days. The helmets looked like lion heads themselves. So that gave a cool little element to it. Like I said, a lot of the original voice cast had returned. This time, though, Tim Curry joined the show as the Prince of Voice Lothor. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Anything with Tim Curry is always going good. That's right, Daniel. We were talking about your boy Go Lion. We already talked about how, you know, we were supposed to get one particular series, but the PA screwed up and got Go Lion instead. But right now, we've already talked about 1, 2, and 3. We're at 1999, probably around when you were bornish. So Voltron in the Third Dimension, they tried real hard. They did 2 seasons of 13 episodes each. And whether it was the story or whether it was the animation or the stretch that they did by adding this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is this is Stealth Voltron. Look, you're all kids to me. Shut up. Fair. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Stealth Voltron. Not particularly a fan. They had come up with this really complex story that they needed this Stealth Voltron. It's derpy. Like, that is the best way that I can describe Stealth Voltron. It is horrible. Now, don't get me wrong. I did say, you know, very much so that they try to follow like what original Voltron did, and they have the scale of the, you know, I'm going to go back and forth here. The blue lion and yellow lion, you know, and same scale as the other two, and same deal with red and green because that's what you had to do. But it's just so bad. The stealth blazing sword looked cool. It was like a big, huge saber with a big, huge curve, but the shield that came along with it it's just horrible. It's so bad. We don't talk about this, and I think I've talked about it long enough. Ugh. But I'll go back to that and enjoy that all day. I like that one. That's a real good one. How many of you had the original Voltron or even Stealth Voltron when you were a kid? Let us know in the comments. We definitely want to, you know, keep the conversation going. And then returning in 2011. It's kind of funny considering the fact that Voltron comes around about every 10-ish years, if you really think about it. So Voltron's celebrating its 40th anniversary. That means we've had 4 different iterations of Voltron. Not counting Vehicle Voltron, obviously, but of just Voltron in general. So in 2011, out of nowhere, nobody asked for this. Nobody knew about it. Me, myself, I didn't know. And I'm a huge, you know, Power Ranger, Voltron, Tokusatsu fan. We got Voltron Force. All right. 26 episodes done by Nickelodeon. Again, a sequel series, but no mention of third Dimension or Fleet of Doom. Thank God. You had 3 out of the original. Let me guess. You had blue, yellow, and black. Because red and green were sometimes harder to get. That's just my guess. But Voltron Force. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you right now, this is about to celebrate its 15th anniversary next year. And I'm going to try as hard as hell what I can do to try and get as much, you know, homage to Voltron Force here on the channel. So I put it out on the internet. I'm putting it out in existence. I want everybody's help with this. This was an amazing show. I absolutely loved it. What was so great about it is that green, yellow, and black. Okay, so you had Voltron going, I can hop. I can hop on one leg and punch you with one leg. You darn kids. How the heck did you have the left side and not the right side? That's funny. I don't know. Maybe I lucked out and my folks got me the whole box set. I can't remember. Anyway, back to Voltron Force. So Voltron Force is a continuation series. We didn't get any of the voice cast back. But they introduced these 3 new cadets. You can see them right here in the gray suits, and they were going to become the next pilots of the Voltron Force. I love the series because with the introduction of the new characters, you had a big, huge, you can see yourself. They were fanboys. Daniel, one of the main characters, the cadets, was a huge fanboy himself of Voltron. So when you hear certain things said or mentioned, and you see the joy on his face, that's what I had too watching it. I was 30 something, but still, Voltron's Voltron, man. If it doesn't evoke, that nostalgic rose-colored glasses joy, something's very wrong with you. I'm just saying it. I'm just putting it out there. So talking about the toys, as I mentioned, we had Third Dimension. They did do a regular Voltron, which was okay. Then they did Stealth Derby Voltron, which was horrible. And then when it came to Voltron Force, as far as toys, and mind you, they introduced so many great new things, the keys and the Volcoms, which were like these gauntlet things that you could put the keys from your Voltron Lion into to unlock weapons. It was awesome. Like, they had such a toyetic use in the show that this is all we got, because, like I said, the toyetic stuff, this is what Voltron looked like. This was awesome. But wait, there's more. They added to the lore in this show so well for it just to get canceled, because they added center changes. That's right. Black Lion could switch out to whichever corresponding lion. And yes, I know I mentioned, shape and size, making sure that they're all relatively the same. I don't care. I questioned it once or twice, because, Black Lion's so big and Green Lion's this big and Red Lion's that big, so on and so forth. I don't care. They switched them out. And by doing so, they took on traits of what you would think that particular pilot or element would be. So when Lance took over as Red Lion, as the red center, he got magma pistols. Why? If you remember, the Red Lion itself was in the volcano. Blue Lion, who came out of the moat around, the Castle of Lions, got this great Neptune Trident water ice power. Hunk, being Hunk, living out in the desert, big, huge guy, got these massive maces to bash things. And then Pidge, if you guys didn't know, Pidge came from a race, from a planet of cyber ninjas. Either way, they still tied back to his, brother Chip. But we got this ninja cyber spinning shield Voltron. And it's a shame there's not a lot of great pictures, but if you zoom in, he actually has a whole mask over, so it kind of looks, like he got a little ninja cowl on. So I absolutely love this. So you'd think, we've got 5 different Voltrons. We've got the Volcoms. We got the personal weapons. We got the this and the that. And that's the only thing. That is the only toy ever produced. San Diego Comic-Con 2011 prototype. That's it. Now, this was supposed to be produced by Mattel in conjunction with Bandai. Bandai wanted to go through the whole Soul of Chojoken line, but we'll get back to that shortly. Daniel, I'm going to have to argue with you on this one. So no switch, only black center. As a Power Ranger fan, okay, I got to give them credit here, because they weren't just relying on Voltron as the, hey, let's set this up, and then, okay, here's the bad guy, here's the plot point, hey, we got to destroy the Roe Beast, boom, done, Voltron, blazing sword. They were really trying to develop the characters out, and with that was their bond with their lions. And to do so really showed that, hey, what's the next step? What's the next power? And not only that, they were trying to build this whole lore that not only of who built Voltron, no one knew. So between the Castle of Lions and 5 other planets in the particular area. So that's how the whole idea of the form changes came into effect. And I, to this day, will say this was probably one of the best, worst slept on series ever. This would be a 1-season wonder if I ever get back to doing those episodes. But that's all we got for toys. I don't know who has this. I would drop good money just to have this in my house. Absolutely. I loved this show. I think they did something really that evoked a particular nostalgia, but on top of that, built up on it. If you can find it online to watch it, give it a chance. The best part, and the other problem was with the show is that because it was animation, it was done in flash style animation, there was never a set schedule for it. So we got up to like episode 12 or 13 is when they finally got the last form, I think, crowbarred in. But it aired randomly like on a Saturday at 2 in the afternoon. Most other nights, it was like on our Friday at 7 o'clock on Nickelodeon. They didn't know what they were doing with it. This is that weird time where a lot of channels didn't know what they were doing. We had Green Lantern, the animated series, Young Justice, and Voltron Force. These are 3 prime examples of these channels didn't know what they were doing. It was too good until it was gone. But yeah, that was it for Voltron Force. And I mean that they still use the original song, an updated version of the combining song of the theme song. On the theme song though for the actual show is rewritten by Swizz Beatz, which it's okay, it works. But when you're combining Voltron, you gotta hear that. They still said, the whole activate interlocks, Dynatherms connected, infracells up, mega thrusters are go, let's go Voltron Force. I say that to this day and 40 years later, and I still get goosebumps about it. I've used that theme even heck as my ringtone. Just remember, whatever song you wake up to is your alarm. That is your theme song for the day. So set yourself up for success. Just a little thought about that. And then we've got Voltron Legendary Defender. Again, another 10 years later, this time under the DreamWorks banner. Voltron Legendary Defender debuted on Netflix. It ran for several seasons, and I say seasons loosely because DreamWorks doing what DreamWorks does happened to have done those little half short seasons that I'm not particularly a fan of. This time we do have all 6 pilots, and instead of having Sven, we have Shiro. Why do we have Shiro? Because back in the original series, when we had the original blue pilot Sven, his name was Sven. Why? Because in the original, it was Shiro, but they didn't think because in 1990s America, we could say the word Shiro, so that's why we got Sven instead. And he talked really funny like this. But yes, I will absolutely agree. Legendary Defender was amazing to an extent. I love the fact, I love the character development. We got a neat bond. I think what DreamWorks did versus, say, Voltron Force, and I'm going to compare the two, is that they really developed more of the characters, the pilots, than they did of the history and lore and story with the lines. I think they were very more character bonus and not Voltron focused, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that was a big takeaway from it, but I really think that was one of its strongest things. And for me, it was one of the things that kind of got me over on a few certain episodes. I mean, there were even some episodes that happened to have gone as far as here's a filler episode. Here's the D&D episode. Before the D&D episode thing was popular. One thing I absolutely love that they did do, this time now done by Playmates, is that Playmates did a metal version of the Legendary Defender. And you can't knock them for it. Like, they realized that there were going to be people our age who enjoyed the show originally, and they want their die-cast lions back, that they made die-cast lions. You can't go wrong with that. There was also plastic ones, and on top of it, they were smart enough, and they even re-released the original Voltron done in this honky-chonky style. And if you take a look up there over the Blazing Sword, if you can see it, folks, hopefully you're watching on your big screen TV at home like I usually do, you'll see that there's a big, ginormous Voltron 40 on there. I think this was great. I remember seeing them in my Toys R Us and going, I want that. Well, problem was I didn't have the shelf space for it, and now I regret it. These plastic ones of the re-release of the original Voltron are still relatively decently priced. I would definitely recommend go out and get them if you can. But Voltron has had a legacy, and that's what I really want to, key in on, is that no matter what, again, depending on how many times, see, Daniel even has that 84 Playmates. No matter at what time you started watching Voltron, It's always been a part of the pop culture zeitgeist. And again, every 10 years it comes back and around. And one thing that Netflix did with DreamWorks is they did a Voltron 84 mini series on there where you can go back and watch and see how terrible the original show is. But we remember with such fondness, we fill in the blanks to make it seem better than it was. And because it's still so relevant and prevalent in our heads now, you get these classic figures back because that's what we want. But then you go one step further and you get the things that you see just to keep it alive and going in our hearts, like Lego Voltron. I am very fortunate. I do have it on my shelf, and unfortunately, it's outside of my office right now, and I'm not going to waste time trying to get back out to go get it. This was a great set. This was an amazing build. I mean, it was 2,300 pieces, I think. Like it was a crazy amount of pieces to put together, and it took me days. And every lion came in their own little bag. It's completely transformable down to lions, and then you can put them all together. And what's interesting to follow up on with this is that now announcing the Megazord that's going to be coming out soon from Lego, they're taking what they've learned from this set and are going to make the Megazord better. I will say, after having this particular figure, I do know that I cannot form Voltron right now because the shoulder combination is just a few simple clips. There's no ball joint on there or try to put in a Technic joint. So it's kind of hard. So it took one quick fall and now I have snapped pieces. So it all sits in lion form right now on my shelves. With eventually, I just got to go on a Bricklink and pick up a few more figures myself. But on top of that, we've got the Lego. And then, if you really want to spend the money, you've got the Soul of Chojoken. Now, I mentioned that back in 2011, Bandai wanted to work together with Mattel to get this figure out. Now, if anybody are familiar with the Soul of Chojoken line from Bandai, this is their super high class, extremely expensive set. I don't even know how much this is running for right now, but I have seen prices anywhere. Yeah, I didn't break Voltron. Gravity did, man. It was kind of heavy. It's a heavy piece too. Just so you know, if you do lift up that Lego Voltron, you will hear plastic go because it's so much weight. So that's why I'm hoping what they've learned from that set to what they bring into the Megazord will make sense eventually. They'll improve on it. But yeah, this Soul of Chojoken, if you take a look right there on that base plate for all of its extra weapons, which comes with all the lion blades in particular, different shapes for each lion. It has a removable faceplate. So if you're a Voltron fan, you're a Voltron fan. If you're a Go Lion fan, you're a Go Lion fan. This is a stunning figure. Is it ever going to be on my shelf? Hell no. But am I going to enjoy it just from afar? Hell yes. Because I have seen Soldier Token Megazords. I've seen the Dragon Zord. I have seen Dragon Caesar. I have seen Daijujin, which are, believe it or not, just slightly different. Not by much, just box art. And I even have like mini Soul Chokens up there of different Megazords, which you can't see, but I can share them sometime. If you can afford this piece, get it. There are still so many things like on Big Bad Toy Store right now that you can pre-order that are in the hundreds of dollars. Why? Because we have such reverence for Voltron that, we still keep making it. Super 7 has done figures. Super 7 has done their clear figures. Just recently, Funko just released randomly Voltron Legendary Defender with an open up head that you can put a mini pop of Shiro in. Like, where did that come from? Mind you, they also did a Megazord of Red Ranger, so, I'm just saying. But there's so much stuff going on with Voltron right now. And, there's rumors that Cavill's going to be doing a Voltron movie. There's been rumors for years since around 2011 that, we're going to get a Voltron movie. We're going to get a Voltron movie. We're going to look, if we get one or don't get one, it doesn't, I would be grateful. Hopefully they'll get it right. But the big thing is that, as collectors, if we don't go and pick up those, figures or collectibles or just keep it alive for everybody, that's when these things are going to, fade away. And I don't think that Voltron is one of those particular franchises that should fade away. I think that it's always brought hope. It's always been fun. It's never been too heavy for on itself or for anyone. It's extremely easy to, to swallow. So I would recommend just keep up on top of it. Make sure that you are really buy the figures, buy the things, keep it alive. Use the hashtags, whatever. Let us know, what your particular favorite Voltron is. Who's your favorite character? Is it Kate? Is it Pidge? Is it Lance? Is it Hunk? Is it Keith? Is it Sven? Is it Shiro? Or is it Princess Allura? There's so many great characters that they've done. We're the ones that keep it going. And to make sure to keep everything going here on Nerd Initiative on Play for Keeps, we want to make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Then you're going to ding the thing, make it ring, to smack that bell for notifications. Then tap that thumbs up to let the GEO know, Michael, that I'm doing my job and I'm doing it well. So, folks, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. I really hope that you enjoyed, talking about Voltron and some of the toys and figures and the show and, sharing your stories, because that's what we're here to do, because we are the home of pop culture positivity. So you can keep, going on with everything in comics, wrestlings, movie, and more. I guess I'm more of the and more kind of person. But as always, we just want to make sure to say to yourself, be kind to yourself. Be kind to others, and make sure that when you play for keeps. I'm out.